Welcome everybody. Welcome everyone once again. Welcome to all our virtual audiences as well. Thank you for joining us from different parts of the world. And we're very, very glad to kick off the 2022 annual IC3 conference with our first session, which is around raising the standards for career guidance in schools. We hope to make this very interactive, insightful, both for you as well as for us. I think there's much to learn from each other, and that is why we are all here. So may I just kick off by saying that please know that we are all peers, we are all lifelong learners, nobody knows more or less. And by the time we finish this conference, we will all know that we are part of a big, big community that is always there to support us, guide us, help us wherever we need support. So please know that you are now becoming a part of a big, big ecosystem, and which is fast growing. So just to tell you a bit quickly about how the IC3 Institute is really positioned in the entire scheme of things. My name is Neha Behel. This is for the virtual audience. And I serve at the IC3 Institute. My role is largely to operationalize the vision and the overall strategy. I work directly with the Board of Trustees, and my role is largely around ensuring that we have key partnerships in place. And also, of course, a lot of operational stuff. So the Institute was really, the brainchild of Mr. Ganesh Kohli, as was the IC3 movement, the founder. And we really wanted to, I think it's something that does justice with the theme of the conference, which is access. The idea was to really move beyond the transactional world and create a space where we can freely share. And I have to say this is something that I've witnessed about the culture, not just, I wouldn't just say exclusively at IC3, but yes, we are building it, where we don't hold back, we give. And that's just so beautiful, because knowledge is to share, right? And we're just so grateful for each one of you, for each of our speakers, and we're happy that we can begin with the IC3 Institute really taking the lead on sharing freely. So at the IC3 Institute, it's really the nerve center of the larger movement. The movement set out with three-pronged goals, which is to sensitize, glamorize, and develop, right? Sensitize the entire community on the need and criticality of career guidance. Glamorize the profession itself. I think there's so much opportunity in this area, and not just opportunity, the critical need that there is of career guidance in schools really means that we need to bring the focus to this function. Most schools, unfortunately, around the world still focus very, very heavily on academic subjects, grades, performance, competition. But I think it's also time to focus on competence rather than competition. And for that, I think what we really need to do is understand what our role as counselors is. Really important to understand the power that lies in each of us. And therefore, the role of the conference is to really bring together the community to celebrate the profession and elevate it. And finally develop, right? So the idea is to also empower our teachers and counselors back in the school to give them, a working model and framework with which they can really set up a sound practice in the school. And that's where the IC3 Institute sits. Our core offering is a flagship one-year program in career guidance, which is offered to schools at no cost to participants. We are a nonprofit. We're a public charity registered in the US in 2019. We started our first cohort with 23 people. We may just have our graduates from the first cohort here as well. Can you just identify yourself? Any graduates from the first cohort? Okay, great, fantastic. So we graduated 23 teachers in the year 2019. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be graduating 250 plus teachers and counselors from 17 countries around the world. So let's have a big round of applause for all those who've put in that 1 year of rigorous training and bringing counseling closer to their schools. So with that, let's just kick off our session. And I do want to start with a few questions just to get a sense. I do understand a lot of us are first-timers at the conference, but can we also identify if we're all counselors, or how many counselors, how many dedicated counselors? Okay, fantastic. Okay, and the others, maybe teachers, principals, vice principals?
How many first-timers at the conference?
Lot of first-timers. The first-timers, can you raise hands and can you also respond on the chat? And for those joining us virtually, if you could also identify, the countries that you're joining us from, I think that'll be interesting, just to see the diversity of our audience. Okay, fantastic. And how many of us have a counseling function, a structured counseling function in schools? Okay, so...
Can we see the participants tab so we can see who all are raising their hands virtually as well?
So when we say structured counseling function, can anybody just sort of tell us what it means for them and what it really is? When you say it's a structured function, what does it really mean? Anyone? Yes. Can we pass a mic in the audience as well?
I'll get it.
Good morning. Structured, I would probably say the community, as the parents and students, are aware of what are the services that we could offer, in what areas we could support them. The management knows what exactly are we trying to do as a counseling office, and at what stages can they reach out and to what an extent. In short, that's the procedure and awareness that we have created as a specific minor institution in itself within the school.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, is there a core philosophy that any of your counseling functions follow? Yes. And let's have, after this, somebody from the virtual audience as well, so we can invite someone from the virtual audience to answer as well, but let's hear it. What's the core philosophy of your counseling function?
Well, the core philosophy is that this is a process where all the three stakeholders are equally as partners. So the students, the parents, and the school. And one main structure that we follow in my school and our school is that from the very beginning, it's not just at the threshold of the school where it is in 11th and 12th, but even in the beginning itself, like in the primary or middle wing itself, the basic conversation that students have some people whom they can access and talk about the choices and the questions arising in their minds. And there's a regularized setup wherein parents can walk into the school and just simply have a conversation without just keeping in mind what colleges or what process to follow. Just to have a conversation. So that is been the core philosophy, and that has worked out very well with our school and the students.
Fantastic. So collaborative, keeping all stakeholders in mind. That's one.
So
and early intervention.
What we do in our school, ma'am, is we have career counseling as part of the timetable from class 8 onwards. There's a period a week from class 8 onwards. We do also have an internship program. This is Stepping Stones High School, Aurangabad. We have an internship program during the summer break for the 11s.
Lovely.
But we have to be careful with internship because children aren't allowed to work.
Right.
So what we do, and is an advice to all principals, we send them mainly to our parents' units, our own parents who we talk to. There's no payment involved, and there's a mutual. We don't send them beyond the parent framework. Right. So it helps a lot because there are many of us who've come and said, thank you so much, sir, I don't want to be a CA.
That's wonderful.
So they get an opportunity to explore.
Yeah, and it's right? I mean, you don't want this to become like a technocratic framework where you're telling them what to do and you seem to know it all. So that's great, wonderful, thank you. Okay, I also want to ask, also sort of seed in another philosophy that we follow at the IC3 Institute, and it's about what are we teaching them for? Are we teaching them for work, or are we teaching them about work? And I want us to think about what the difference could be in this core philosophy or pedagogy. So when we're teaching them or training them for work, we're basically just training them for what exists or what is. But when we're talking to them about work, we're really going beyond what is and what could be. So we're making that extra effort to break those barriers, traditional mindsets, and then go beyond and help them explore what could be, right? And that's a big shift that we need to bring in ourselves and then eventually in our students. So we will talk about, how that is embedded in our core philosophy, how we sort of make sure that that is a part of the process. But coming back to raising the standards in school, I think we can continue to move to the next slide. Did we have anybody from the virtual audience respond about a core philosophy? Can we get and invite someone who'd like to answer before we move on? Anyone from the virtual audience who'd like to respond? Okay, Kritika, maybe we can just read this out, right? If
Oh, they were just sharing. So Soma ma'am has shared that their sorry, can you just bring it down? Yeah. To help students, parents, and management guide socio-emotionally and career-wise as well.
Sure. Okay, fantastic. Moving on. Let's move to the next slide. And turning it over to Kritika.
Okay, so I think to help us, guide this session or facilitate this session, we actually want to get a sense from you about why is it important to have career and college counseling as a core function in your schools. So a couple of us shared our philosophy earlier of what drives the career counseling department, but it'll also be helpful for us to know what motivates you to understand why career and college counseling is an important core function in a school. So can we have a couple of audience responses? Yes, sir. Do we have a second mic? Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay, Sarah's got a hand up, so maybe I'll come to Sarah next virtually.
Hello, this is Dr. Vishal from Rajkot.
Hi.
The main reason is that there is a lot of skill gap between the industry and the education. So generally what topics are being taught into the school, the moment the child goes out of the school, they understand that this is irrelevant and we need to learn something new. So to make them industry ready, this is the first step we need to do is we need to inform them, as you said, about the work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I do get that. I'm sure a lot of your students sit in class and ask, exactly why am I studying this and where am I going to use this in my life later? Especially in trigonometry class, I bet. Okay. Sarah, can we have Sarah spotlighted virtually? We don't see Sarah though. Sarah, can you hear us? Yeah, I can see.
I put my hand up physically for the previous question, but no one saw me.
Okay, but we'd love to hear from you. Why do you think career and college counseling is a core function in a school?
Because actually I was going to talk about this in the previous question, but that's okay. Because, well, very similar to the gentleman that just spoke, employers now are looking more and more at skills rather than just the academics. So it's really important that we build that into our curriculum and that we align it with the academic curriculum as well. So I'm really happy that as a result of attending the IC3 programme, my school has now built the college counselling into the core. So we also have core sessions with our students from grade 10 to 12, but I'm also now working with the 8s and 9s. It's an IB school, so NYP3 through to DP2. So yeah, it is important because it's not just about, as Nihas just said, it's not just about looking at what exists now, it's about what might exist in the future. And the world is just changing so rapidly. We just don't know yet what the future will be. And there's a statistic I read, I think it's BridgeU, it's a platform provider. They said that for children now entering primary school, by the time they reach the workplace, 65% of the jobs will be completely different.
Yeah, that's right. Thank
There
you
was
so
something
much.
along those lines. It's massive, massive change.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sarah. Okay, can we have a couple of other responses from here as well? Okay.
Great, thank you. Just to add from what other contributors have highlighted, I've had an experience of also working and interacting with young people, probably those who are just transitioning from high school into tertiary education. And often I've had discussions with young people who are so disgruntled. Why? Because they may be in their third year at university studying medicine, and I still remember having conversation with one student who was studying tourism and hospitality, and he was in his third year on attachment, on internship. And the conversation that we had was that he made a hurried decision in terms of choosing a career path. And in the midst of, of his program, he then saw that it's something that didn't resonate with him. He wasn't passionate about tourism. He wasn't passionate about hospitality, but he lacked guidance, you see. So these are some of the pain points that I see, and also that continue to be evolving. One example that I'll give before I hand over back to you is of a student who studied medicine. Forced by the parents to take medicine, and 5 years in Zimbabwe studying medicine, completed, graduated, and guess what happened after graduation? He said to the mom, I'm handing over the certificate to you. Now I'm going to study electronic engineering because that's where I'm passionate about. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I met one of these kids in our regional forum, so we usually go to different cities and meet schools, etc. And so I generally just sort of asked him about what he wants to do, and an expected answer, which was engineering, but not the reason why. So I asked him, okay, you want to do engineering? We talked so much about so many careers today. He's like, yeah, but I still have 4 years to figure out what to do in life, so, well, there you go.
So true. Okay, maybe we can take another response for this question and then move ahead. Yes.
Hello everyone, my name is Homera, and I've recently joined this school. It's been only 1 month, and I'm blessed to have good rapport with the kids because I feel the pandemic has made my school kids at least to lose interest in everything. So they want to do it all or nothing at all. And this is the girls' perception, whereas the boys, many of them have told that they want to become cricketers, and they have seen Dhoni, Virat Kohli, and all of them. They have been inspired by them. They say, if we want to become cricketers, why do we study? So what I thought is the career counseling per se is missing, which is why I'm here today, right? To take tips and advices so that I can go back and brief them about it.
Thank you so much. It's so interesting that I was expecting similar responses when we thought of this question, but I got so many unique standout responses that the number of reasons is so diverse. Okay. Actually, yes, so if anybody would like to share, can I just request you to stand up while you do, because then our virtual audience will be able to see you too. Okay. I meant when you raised it. Okay, so maybe we can take 1 or 2 responses and then move ahead. Okay.
I'll be very quick. Hi, I'm Kriti. I feel whatever we do in life, we should understand why we do it in life. And that's the only simple reason why career and college counseling should be there in school. Because if the child doesn't understand why is he studying a particular subject and how is it related or connected to the outer world when he's going to be a professional. So there's no insight. And the earlier it starts, the better understanding the person will have. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ma'am?
Hello everybody, I'm Garima from Pune, Air Force School Pune. So just to add on what other people said just now, this counseling is very important to make the students aware of actually about all unconventional career options which are available, because still the mindset of the society is the same, like what sir said, that parents also want that their child should go for engineering, do science and give JEE exam or go for engineering and all. So it's very important that children are aware of all unconventional courses, and just little bit out of box thinking is required here. Thank you so much.
So, careers in classes. So basically, I'm a physics teacher. So when I relate my subject with the career and the options that are available based on the my subject, it's first glamorizing my class. So, and my self-esteem is getting increased. Children see me in a different way that, yes, this teacher knows many more things other than what the book says. So personally, as a teacher, for me, this career as a core function, it's helping me to develop myself professionally. So in turn, if I am developing, obviously I would be able to extend a better performance outcome to my students, and that it reaches and it develops an interest in my subject, and slowly they start developing an interest to the subject and finding a career option for my subject. So that's what career is for me.
Thank you so much. That's such an interesting perspective. I never thought of how it could relate to enhancing your role as an educator as well in terms of building respect with the students, getting their engagement in the classroom. So thank you for sharing that.
I'm Michelle from Silver Oak School, Hyderabad. So talking about traditional careers, the pathways that we normally take, we always, children believe that, if you become an engineer or you take medicine, the ROI will be more higher. If you take the liberal arts, you may not earn as much as what the traditional, careers that you go. I believe that there are new age careers that are coming up. In the next 10 years, we will have the skills that we need to train and develop the skills in children to match that, because the career trends are changing now. Okay, and we have to see that if they are, your best fit careers. Not that all the fingers are the same. Not that each and every child is unique. So we need to see that, the careers that they take up should be to their passion and interest. Because you see people switching over jobs. You know why? Because the happiness quotient is something where we have to look into. And we have to allow them to dream. Allow them to explore. And when you do research and exploration, when they do it, it's something very different. So that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm just going to have to pause here for a moment because we're at slide 2 of maybe 12. But let me just summarize this for a moment, and we will come back to you for further questions. It's going to be engaging throughout, I promise. So I can see the responses range from everything, right? External factors like how the world of work is evolving so rapidly. Pretty much the careers that students know now may not exist by the time they graduate. There's a skill gap in terms of how employable students are being. Even though they're educated, they're not necessarily employable. And then, of course, ultimately, the most important thing, the socio-emotional factors of how there's a lack of alignment with personal values in terms of what a student knows, in terms of how do they even know themselves to know what is their best fit, and then are they able to sustain that for something that can make them successful as well as keep them happy and content. So with all of these range of responses that we all mutually identify as important, and regardless of an academic board too, I know that we're represented widely by a variety of academic boards here. So whether it's parents putting students in a box with the engineering doctor side of it, or if we go to, let's say, schools where parents are even open, but there's a wide variety of choices and a lack of knowledge of how to navigate these choices and how to make your best fit choice. With all of these factors in place, we still don't necessarily have a benchmark of what is a good practice for career and college counseling. So there is no manual or guide, right? Different countries do have frameworks that they execute at national levels, but in terms of looking at subjects like mathematics, physics, biology, which have standardized text that is curriculum specific and have a clear beginning to end outcome as a curriculum, we don't have that approach in career and college counseling. It is quite ad hoc still, even amongst the best schools. It's something that even the most experienced counselors are evolving on the go. And of course, the industry itself is like that because the world of work is evolving, so is the higher education sector. But that's why it's so critical to have a system in place that can help us to structure the whole growth process as well. To understand how do we, A, set a robust system for career and college counseling, and B, how do we keep upgrading that system, right? What's the guideline for us to be able to do that? So before we dive a little deeper into that, I'm going to hand it back to Neha to tell us a little bit about the accreditation as an overall process, and then we'll go further from there. Thank you so much.
Okay, and before we dive into the what, I think and that's something that's very relevant when we're also teaching kids, right? We have to answer the why, right? So just a reflection, how many of us have probably had suggestions of a movie from a friend or a peer or a relative that has not turned out to be good? Yeah, right? Okay. Or a restaurant that we want to eat at, or a location or a vacation spot that we probably were told was excellent but didn't turn out to be as awesome as we were told it would be, right? We have, right? We've landed up into that situation, what do we lose? We lose some money, we lose some time, we also lose some faith, right? Some trust. What is the cost of a bad advice to a student or a wrong advice to a student? Right. So that is why we need to answer the question why, right? Why accreditation? And we all know the textbook web definition of accreditation. But now with that reflection, and a holistic point of view, so when I ask you this question that I will, you have to think from the perspective of not just the roles that you're performing, but also all stakeholders informed. So wear the hat of a student, some of you could, wear the hat of a parent, a school leader, a university leader, and answer that question. But one word that comes to your mind, or if I could ask you, let me just ask it a little differently. What does accreditation mean to you? If you could define that in one word for me. And let's first, if it's okay, everybody, we'll take responses from the virtual audience first, and then we'll come to the in-person audience. So one word, if they could describe in chat, just type in chat, what does accreditation mean to you? Not necessarily in context to career guidance as we've been speaking by far, but in general. So just type one word.
So future at stake.
Accreditation, meaning for
okay,
accreditation.
Sorry.
Yes.
Credibility, quality.
Okay. Let's keep going. Let's have more responses. Yeah, quality. Quality, great, yeah. Yes, okay, in person.
Standardization, okay.
Yes.
Authenticity.
Louder. Can you just be louder, those of you?
Self-evaluation, yes.
Evaluation.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just one word, so if one is louder, it's loud enough.
Okay, authenticity, approval, standard and quality. Validation.
Trust.
Trust, yeah. Comprehensive, okay.
Grant.
Certified, grant. Recognition, sorry? Value for money, okay.
Credibility.
Certification. Fantastic. Okay. I don't think we need the session anymore. Everybody have fun. Sorry? Yes, yes. Based on facts, right? So yeah.
Credibility also.
Credibility, absolutely. Okay, fantastic. Yes. So while we have lots of accreditation processes, as Kritika mentioned, around the world to assess the quality of an educational institution, quality of processes that we follow, there isn't a standardized practice or a gold standard to measure the best practices or benchmark the best practices within career and college guidance. And the question is, what if there was? Like, what if you could go to one place? And let me just say that in the same breath, there is no one-size-fits-all approach here, right? It will be unique for your school, but what if there was something that you could go to, refer to, something that could help you, tread your path to excellence as you structure your counseling function, which could actually tell you, and you probably would save some time, but I think what it would really do is see how you fare among several other institutions around the world. What are institutions and schools around the world doing? Currently, we know there is scope for us to know what may be happening in our region. We may be meeting friends around the country, etc. Some of us may have friends outside in schools of the country as well. But what if there was this one place to go to that can actually guide you into the process of it, right? How can you really move towards excellence and the pathway for it? And that's what the accreditation process is really here to do. So what we really want to talk about today is the accreditation program, and what if we could think about accrediting, the idea of accrediting a counseling function. How does that sound? How does that sound? I mean, I also would attach licensing to it, I mean, to some extent, right? Well, why not? Okay, let's keep moving.
Can we move to the next slide? Okay, so what is the IC3 Institute accreditation? We do want to talk about that, and we do have some friends who've been a part of the process who would like to share as well today, so we do want to keep some time for that quickly. But the accreditation program really recognizes the career and college department of your school, right? So that's what the accreditation is here to do. And in the process also helps you identify where you stand in that journey, carry out a self-evaluation like you said, follow best practices once you know what those are, focus on really helping students make informed decisions, and we've been talking about this already. But more importantly also, encourages the counseling function, right? I mean, how are we measuring the effectiveness of our counseling department? How are we reporting the progress of our counseling department? How do we let the school see that this department is probably the most critical function that the school has, and it's doing really, really well in helping students make informed decisions? So that's the yardstick that we are trying to set up through the accreditation process. Okay, let's keep moving. And of course, I don't want to get into the definition of it, but I think we've all got the crux. The idea is to really, really shape the landscape of career and college counseling worldwide, and to really become the gold standard. We would really see the IC3 Institute accreditation to become the gold standard around the world against which schools can really benchmark their practices. So that's the vision and the stated mission. But I'm going to now sort of turn it over to Kritika, because we do want to talk about how it may benefit the various stakeholders, what it means, and we've all answered it in some way or form, so we don't want to spend too much time on that slide, but let's move.
Thanks, Neha. So just carrying it forward from what Neha said, while the mission is, of course, to give, first, definitely help schools be recognized, right? Just with the IC3's overall mission of sensitize, glamorize, and develop, we want to first help the community understand its value, much like we're doing today, give recognition to the people who are really putting their heart and soul in to make this robust function, and build capability constantly. So just keeping in line with that, we're building the accreditation as well. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about why a school should get accredited, and I think we'll just toggle back and forth on this. But first and foremost, I think it's a representative of your commitment to the school student body. I think nowadays when parents are trying to evaluate what's a good school for my child, how do I make sure that, especially in their middle and high school, that they're picking the school that's going to be aligned with helping mold them, shape them, and recognize what their best fit is. To have the school accredited is going to give them a chance to understand that the school has dedicated resources and functions to helping my child identify their best fit career pathway. And that's definitely a worthwhile investment to make. And second is, as Neha said earlier too, recognition and visibility in the global education community. And lastly, a detailed report, right, with recommendations. So when we do an accreditation process, it's less about it's not just an evaluatory function. It's not an evaluatory function of, okay, this is what's working well, this is not working well, and we're going to assess you and give you a grade based on that. That's not the intent of the function at all. The intent of the function is to see, okay, this is the starting line of the race for you, and here's where we'd like to go from here. Here's how we'd like to build it further. So everything is done in a very thoughtful, well-structured, and with a mentoring approach, not with a critical evaluatory approach. And that's something I'd like to emphasize. So when we're doing reports related to accreditation, it's always keeping in mind actionable best practices that you can bring relevant to your school's career and college counseling department. So again, carrying forward from what Neha said, there is no one size fits all. Every school, based on their need, will need to have something that's tailored to fit their curriculum, their student body, their parent demographic and needs. So how do we make sure that we set a system that is standardized, but can be tweaked, molded, and modified to meet the needs of your school environment specifically? Do you just want to do that?
I don't want to dive too much into this because this information is available on our website. You can always do this. But I just want to, again, plant a thought here. And this is also, in the interest of some of our university delegates who may be attending this session. So, and this is a feedback that we've got. I mean, we have surveys to tell you that this is a feedback that we receive. And often you have university delegates informing us that they find it really hard to get information off at times from schools. It comes in different shapes and sizes and forms, and it's just very hard to make meaning of it. And it would be so much better if, there was more thought and more structure put into this, right? And I'm saying this also because our children are not going to do what we say. They're going to do what we do, right? So if we are not structured in our approach, if we don't have data to support, what we say, we are pretty much drilling that culture down within our students, and it's going to reflect. It's going to reflect in an LOR that they may write, or a statement of purpose that they may write, or an interview that they may give to a university, and it'll effectively, ultimately it is a reflection of us, right? So it's very, very important that, how we structure the counseling function and how we come across as a school to university partners, to industry, to the world outside of the school is very important, and that's the reflection that our children are going to carry forward as well. So, Kritika, do you want to quickly take them through the process, because I do want to make sure that we have time for everybody
absolutely. Okay, so we'll just dive right into the process. So we've been talking a lot about why this is relevant, and we've established that everybody's on the same page with recognizing its value. So how does the accreditation happen at the IC3 Institute? First, the school submits an application, and it's a really simple process. You just fill out a Google form, let us know that you're interested in pursuing the accreditation. And the eligibility criteria is also really simple. You just need to be a K-12 school, so kindergarten to grade 12, and have a full-time career counselor on the school's payroll in that specific function. So once that's completed, you submit the assessment fee, etc. These are all the logistical and operational pieces. But the most important part begins there. So once the application is completed, we have two parts of it. You do a school details form. So that helps us to understand your school's background and context better. So where's your school located? How many students do you have? What are the current practices in your career and college counseling department? How many people are involved in it, etc. So this gives us a sense of the kind of school that we're working with and how we're going to support you better. The next part is, and perhaps the most important part of the entire accreditation, is the self-study. It's the guided self-study. So far, all the operational pieces that I described, it'll take you up to 1 or 2 weeks to do, but we dedicate about 2.5 to 3 months for the guided self-study. So this is an extremely robust and reflective process, much like ma'am said earlier, where self-reflection is a part of accreditation. This is the part that we value the most, because it gives the school an opportunity to go really deep into all the parts of the career and college counseling department in terms of what are your current practices. Can you just go to the next slide for a moment? Thanks. So how is this self-study done? It's done based on these 7 standards. I don't know if it's very visible on the screen right now to all of you. Is it? Can you see it? Okay, we'll be sharing the presentation with all of you via email as well. Okay, so these are the 7 standards based on which the self-study happens. So we have curriculum, infrastructure, management and leadership support, process management and documentation, staff, resources, and school partnerships and associations, right? So each of these 7 standards have a varied weightage, because in order for there to be a robust career and college counseling function, we don't want to necessarily block a school that says, oh, we don't have a separate career guidance office. It's not necessary that you need to have a dedicated room, but it's just more about how are you utilizing the existing resources in your school infrastructure to meet the needs of career guidance at your school. So that's a little bit about the infrastructure function. But the standards that have the highest weightage are actually curriculum and staff. We place very high weightage on these 2 criteria, because in order for there to be a successful counseling department, much like any other subject which has a successful curriculum, we do need a curriculum approach to career and college counseling. And we don't measure, for example, if you're looking at a core subject, right? Like biology, physics, you're looking at the chapters that are completed and the topics that need to be covered. We don't take that approach. we instead take the approach of understanding, have you built a curriculum that's progressive, age appropriate, and contextualized to your school needs? So the topics are not what is evaluated, but more how personalized and structured and systematic have you made it as a curriculum for your school. So that's got the highest weightage. The next is the staff. So I think we can all unanimously agree, right? And much like Ganesha said earlier, the person we remember 30 years later is the teacher that made an impact on us. So similarly, the people who are in that critical function as a career and college counselor are the people that are going to resonate with us. And I can say that from my personal experience. I took a career and college counseling because of my career guidance counselor, who was my mentor as well. And she made me intern with her in the 11th and 12th, and I thought this is really exciting. So I think people leave such a strong impression. So how are we training the people in that function is also equally important. So are they having the opportunity to go through ongoing training and development? Are they keeping themselves appraised with the development in the field? And how supportive is the school in terms of encouraging their professional development? Right? So then the other processes which are important, the other standards which are important are things like management and leadership support. So how does the school leadership prioritize this function? Have they made space for it in a calendar? Is there budget allocated for it? Process management and documentation. Do you have a good SOP in place? So let's say students want to come for one-on-one meetings with you. Parents want to come meet you. You have to do recommendation letter writing. Where are you fitting all of this into your calendar? How are you structuring the processes to make it more efficient for yourself? What are the systems you're using for it? Then resources. What kind of resources are you utilizing to guide your students and support them? Are they verified and authenticated resources? What are the channels from which you're getting these resources? And how do you keep updating your resource library? And lastly, school partnerships and associations. So what kind of professional peak bodies are you keeping yourself connected with so that you can grow your network, continue to build on your professional development? So like I said, all of these standards have varying weightages with curriculum and staff with the highest weightage. But we just want to emphasize that this is a really powerful self-reflective exercise. It really allows the school to dive deep into what's worked well and what hasn't, and you will be hearing from some people later as well about this. So let's actually move into the next part. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If it's okay, can we keep the questions towards the end? Yeah, no, this is the next part of it. Okay, so once the school submits the form, you've taken 3 months to do the self-study. By the way, the 7 standards of evaluation, it's not restricted to you just filling out, this reflective report. Your students, parents, alumni, all have to do it as well. And even the school support teacher, because we want to look at how all the stakeholders in the community are also feeling about this process. So it's a 360-degree perspective. Again, not to be critically evaluatory, but more reflective to improve the process and make it more efficient. So the next stage, once you finish this 3-month self-study, is the visiting evaluator. So the visiting evaluator is an industry expert, somebody with, let's say, 5+ years, 10+ years of counseling experience from the same academic board as your school. So they're going to come to your school, review your self-study report, and mentor, advise, and guide. Apart from evaluating the functions, also mentor, advise, and guide about how you can improve the functions. And we say same academic board because it'll be very unrelatable, right? If somebody from a different academic board and different school setup came to your school to tell you what to do. This way we make sure that it's very implementable, actionable suggestions that they're giving while they're on the ground. And it's a collaborative learning experience. Even the evaluator leaves with a lot to learn from a school. So with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Pragati, who's one of the visiting evaluators of the IC3 Institute accreditation, to share a little bit about her experience as an evaluator.
Can I just move to that side?
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I think as Kritika was saying, it was there? Thank you. I would be in the limelight now. So what I was trying to say is that what Kritika was saying, that it was as much of a self-reflection and learning for me and what I am doing in my office as it was for the school I was visiting. A very seamless process, I must say. There were tons of forms, a lot of documentation which went behind, the preparation. But while visiting, it was a very smooth conversational process where I met the counselor, had a conversation about what she's doing, what she's not doing, what are the challenges being faced. And the best reflection I had was that while I was talking to her, in my mind, I was also evaluating my own practice, my own office, my own management, my own curriculum. But at the end of the road, I don't know whether that school ended up having the accreditation or not, but I felt that it is one of the best ways to raise our own standards, to let our parents know that we are accredited and hence we are doing a good job. We are known by the industry standards. I don't like to use the word industry standards, yet we are comparing ourselves with a whole bunch of other schools in the region. And the best part is that the entire school community gets to know that this is a core function and as important as a school evaluation visit from CBSE or ICSE or the IB boards. So when these boards visit us for evaluation, it is given so much time and attention, but somehow in majority of the schools, it is relegated as something which is an extra thing done to glamorize and market the schools. That's how I started 25 years back, when I was just hired so that the school can get a better name. But today we realize that we are making a difference. And the accreditation process helps us to understand, are we actually making a difference? Or is it just that we feel we are making a difference? So, yeah, any other questions?
That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Pravati, do you want to take a question from the audience?
Yeah, sure.
Anybody have a question for Pravati?
It can seem very daunting, but it is not. That is what I would say.
Does it still continue, or is it like an evaluation or an accreditation for a block of 3 to 5 years? I think it was an annual thing, right? Thank you for the question. If it's about the general accreditation, so it is a 3-year review process. So this process itself takes about 3 to 6 months for you to complete. So then we let it run for another 2 years before we come for the review and visit. So thank you so much. Okay, so far, just quick recap. We've completed all of the logistical applications. We've done a very detailed reflective self-study, engaged our stakeholders in the process as well. And now we come to the next part. After the visiting evaluator comes to the school, they also write a report based on the same 7 standards in the same format as the school's report. So it's a mirrored report. One the school is filling, one the evaluator is filling. So it's a fair process, right? Then the next step is a review by an accreditation panel. Can we go to the next slide, please? So once the accreditation panel, So when the accreditation panel comes in, it consists of people from high school leadership, universities, and industry who objectively review both reports and then decide on a quantitative and qualitative evaluation of the accreditation. So that determines how the school is going to be accredited, right? And when I say quantitative, when you look at these 7 standards, there are points allocated to it, and there is a section where you explain those scorings. So we take a summary of that quantitative score, review the qualitative evidence and documents submitted, and the accreditation panel then makes a decision. So I'd actually like to now invite one of our accreditation panelists, Ms. Anuradha Gupta from Macquarie University, to share her experience briefly.
Thank you. I think he's just doing a great job of focusing. Hi everyone, good morning. So this is the easiest part to do, to be honest. You've all done the hard work. The school has, submitted all the reports. The evaluator has gone and done the physical job of verifying and discussion. And then comes a panelist who sits there for 2 to 3 hours listens to what the evaluator has provided, reads the reports, and then evaluates. It's a robust process. There is no ambiguity when you are into it, because everything is explained, everything is mentioned in a step-by-step format. You just follow it one after the other. And it's a retrospective, it's an introspective, and it's a learning experience for everybody. Even someone who sat on an accreditation panel, it was a learning for me, because it taught me how much the schools are doing. I'm a university delegate, but just to come on the other side and see how much the schools are doing, with the limited resources or the vast resources, what are you able to put forward for your children, how much forward thinking, forward planning is involved, or where can we as a panel add to it, that something is missing, why don't you just do this for next few months and, let's have a chat again. But it's a very, very robust process. And from a university, so this was from a panelist perspective, but from a university perspective as well, I would say that it helps us universities to know that a school has, gone through this process, has actually, been open enough to invite someone external to come and evaluate them, and then have had the courage and the, the ethics to actually be evaluated by a panel. So congratulations to the schools who've gone through it, and good luck for the schools who are going to go through it. I hope to be on more panels.
Thank you.
As I said, easiest thing to do. So thank you so much.
She's very humble. She's an incredible panelist. So ethical and fair. And that's another thing I just want to emphasize. It's a very, very high ethical standard practice. So there is an NDA and an NOC involved at every stage, where all the documents are kept with the highest level of confidentiality. Nobody reads it except those who are required to read it, and no personal information is ever shared outside. And all of them, thanks a lot to Pragati, Ma'am, Anuradha, and all of the other panelists who've done this, but they've really helped us maintain the highest standards of integrity. So I'll just quickly summarize, because we're running out of time. But can I go to the next slide, please? And just go to the next one again. So the last stage is, once this entire process is completed, the school receives the accreditation, right? So there are 3 levels of accreditation: grade A, A+, and A++. This is dependent on how the school does in terms of the quantitative scoring and the qualitative evaluation by the panel. And this is not a do-all, end-all process. So once you receive an accreditation status, the school can choose to appeal it after a 6-month period to either improve the accreditation. So say you're at an A or A+ and you want to upgrade, you can consider for evaluation in 6 months, or you can go through the 3-year cycle, go through the recommendations that we share with you as a part of the report, and then apply for reconsideration in 3 years when we come back for the evaluation. So I forgot to mention this part, I'm sorry, but we do provide a very, very comprehensive report at the end of this. So there are commendations and recommendations for each of the 7 standards with defined action steps of how you can implement those changes in your school, and they come from the visiting evaluator, from the IC3 team, as well as the panel. So you've got a very, very holistic review and feedback that's coming your way. And before we conclude, I do want to turn it to Soju, who's here from KC High School. Can we go to the next slide, please? So KC High School is one of the schools that completed the accreditation process last year, along with Oberoi International, Hyderabad Public School in Begumpet, and Pratapol School. And I'd love for Soju to share her experience of the accreditation process briefly.
So hi, everyone. I must share that we got an A+ accreditation to begin with, which I was really surprised to get. So the reason we did it, the accreditation, is, basically for me to make sure that I was following the right practices, and to really self-evaluate what I was doing. And because the whole process is peer-reviewed, it kind of makes you feel happy at the end of the day when you get the accreditation. And I think, getting that A+ accreditation has kind of put us on the global map, because, I'm from Chennai, and most of the universities would only come up to Mumbai and, really not come down to the south. And I feel now with the accreditation, being out there on our website, having this certificate, it's really made a difference to our school. So it's really, really, really a proud moment for us. And Thank you. And yes, the process is long, but it's a fun process because you're really critically looking at all the practices that you're doing and getting feedback from the IC3 Institute on how to improve. So it's a wonderful experience. So all of you should go ahead with the accreditation. I would suggest
So much. Soju, it was lovely. And, we're
Thank
out
you
of
so much.
time, but you will see most of us here around today. So please catch hold of us to ask your questions, our team. You will find us in the ballroom and, just catch hold of us, not just for the accreditation, but also for the flagship program, because I do believe that's the first step to excellence. But very well summed up, Soju. I think it holds a mirror. And a mirror that does not make you look bad, because it's not a bureaucratic process. At the end of the day, it wants to make sure that you look good at the end of the day. So that's what we're here trying to do. Thank you so much, everybody. Any closing thoughts, Kritika?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that so much. Really, our function here at the IC3 Institute is just to make sure that, as you know, the flagship program, all of these things are absolutely free of cost to schools. And we just want to make sure that the school has the best quality of guidance and support being provided to the students to specifically meet the needs of your students and not in a one-size-fits-all manner. So just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. I know we don't have time for questions, but we have our cards.
Back,
you can pick
yes.
up our cards, meet up with us, and we're here through the next 2 days. Thank you so much for being here. And we look forward to spending the rest of the day with you here.
Have a good
Thank you.
day, everybody.